Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SB Reacts where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Paralicyst if I'm not mistaken, the song titled Conjure the Flames, and if we switch over to here we've got ourselves the track on Spotify. Here is the art. Apparently they're working on an EP at the moment, and also apparently they're going to be headlining the Washington Death Fest, which is dope. They've also got 6k plays on Spotify, so they're definitely making moves. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. I'm also going to be giving the song an overall score out of 10 based on various musical criteria at the end, but for now, let's go. Let's do it. What do we got? Excellent. Yeah, that's it. It reminds me of the production style of a lot of late 80s stuff. I dig it. Great major turn there. I mean, that was just visceral, wasn't it? I mean, that was sensational. Genuinely, that was very, very good. There's a lot to appreciate about that. We're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Paralicyst, titled Conjure the Flames. In this section, I'm going to be providing an overall song analysis, from everything through the lyrics and vocals, as well as to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally, my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. I should also note before we go any further that I've given this track an overall score 8.1 out of 10, which I feel is a very strong score. There's just a lot here that was very, very well done. It did remind me of a lot of the music that I listened to in like the 80s and early 90s and stuff like that, and in this genre, I just really dig it. But first of all, before we go any further, what do we think this track is about? I think, because I didn't get all the words through clearly, but I think that we might have been talking about conjuring the flames. They can lift you higher, something about desire, if I'm not mistaken, in different parts. So I'm kind of wondering whether this is about going into some sort of ritual or summoning something, and maybe there are some terrible things or sacrifices or something that had to occur in order for that to happen. I'm not sure, but either way, I think it sounded phenomenal. It was massive sounding. The vocal performances were incredibly visceral with a range of those different growls and shrieks and screams, and it's just so on point for this type of music. And we sounded like we had vocal technique that could be replicated. They sounded like they were doing it in a sort of a healthy way, which is really nice, because sometimes when people do vocal fry and they don't do it properly, they can really sort of wreck their vocal cords. So I'm really happy that we not only had different ways of expressing and approaching how we communicated with the listener, was sort of been loyal to the genre, but also that we did so in a way that was yeah, it's just really responsible, because I want to make sure these guys are doing this for a long time to come, because they're very, very good. So yeah, vocal performance, considering the subject matter, again, it's like part of the style of music is that the vocals, lyrics don't come through as clearly a lot of the time with this kind of stuff as well, and especially because I don't think they were going for a super clean production style, again, to try and make it sound a bit more sort of old school, and that's totally fine. I think it's nice. There's already so much sort of over-polished metal nowadays, that having something a bit more kind of gritty sounding is definitely welcome. But it's just, yeah, it's very, very good. I mean, this track is 4 minutes 40, right? Outside of the really sort of like fantastic vocal performance and how I think that connects to the lyrics, it's just a really well structured track. I mean, when you get out of the 4 minute sweet spot, you end up to the 4 minute sweet spot, should I say, you need to have enough structural or compositional diversity in order to keep people interested, primarily because, you know, if you have the same thing over and over, it just gets a bit dull by that stage. But we not only had a variety of different guitar, bass, and drum patterns there, with a mixture of quarters, eighths, triplets, and sixteenths across the board, as well as 30 seconds, you know, a mixture of blast beats and sort of double kick patterns and lots of alternate shredded kind of picked sort of rhythm riffs and a solo section as well that was absolutely just like, it was just frenetic and awesome. It kind of matched the energy really well, I think, of a lot of the rhythm section parts earlier to it, so it was a nice sort of like connection to that. It's also that I think we changed tempo in meter in certain parts and just played around with the rhythmic cadence of the piece. We're very comfortable switching things up in terms of how we harmonize those different tremolo picked guitar parts there. The part that I said was a major leaning, I'm more meant to say I like the modulation of it, although I don't think we would. There was just really a bunch of different harmonies and sort of arpeggiated, sort of like outside the triad kind of chords there. We might have had some diminished or minor 7 flat 5s, or some really cool patterns there with some power chord elements and chugs as well. Just the rhythm guitar sections were not only doing the zeros, they were doing all the other frets as well. And the bass underneath it was keeping up and keeping the pace, and just a fantastic sort of support to everything that was going on. We just, the drums were just crazy though. We explored the entire kit, and I liked the sound of the drums as well. That snare drum tone had this kind of sass and kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, it sounded really authentic for the genre. But like immediately, it's just so fast. And the fact that we're able to play with all the instruments at that speed in a way that's tight, whilst not being overproduced or like sort of just, they're very good musicians. And like the mixture of different rhythms immediately, you just know you're in for a hell of a ride with what they're presenting off the bat. Going between halftime parts with the really authoritative sort of vocals over top of it, but going from that after the really fast double time part, just ease of transfer between sections and different speeds is not an easy thing to do, so clearly they've been doing this for a while. So you can go to a different part of this track and kind of just click between different elements and find a different idea. And that's also part of what I appreciate, is not only that there are seamless transfers, but that each of the parts within a piece we have sound like they're part of the same track, whilst also like not being too different at the same time, but like they sound like they're within the same track, but there's just enough changes in the rhythms or the chords we're using there. We're not just relying on the same thing. I think what I'm trying to say is that there's no filler and there's no time where you start becoming disinterested because of things being overplayed. Like you appreciate when existing ideas come back into the fray, but they're never there for too long. I think that guitar solo with just the brightness, the kind of the push of it and the fire with that lead guitar solo is just the palate cleanser you need at that point to sort of get you through the end. It's just so vicious sounding, and it mirrors, I think, the energy they wanted to sort of put forward within the piece there. And like you continue with the triplet, 16 triplet kicks there right up until that last part where you kind of have that hangover, that point at the end. And you have this really cool thing going on at the end with the bass kind of sliding up and down, and like the lead guitars or the rhythm guitars, the guitars kind of like resolve to these squealy kind of pinched harmonic kind of vibratos, and it's just incredibly epic sounding. But you only get that rest at the end, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, you have little breaks and pauses and stuff like that, but it's a relentless piece that you get a feeling of what Paralicyst is through that process. I think also, just going back to the lead guitar solo really quickly, I think the use of the wah pedal, if I'm not mistaken, is just a nice sort of way to adjust the tone without, because like they're micromanaging these adjustments, but it's very good. So when you consider the tightness of the performance between the guitars, bass, drums, and vocals, then you're just left with the theme. And clearly it's minor oriented, it's in the minor key. We'll use Phrygians, we use some harmonic and melodic minors as well there, maybe some pentatonics and sort of like, not really the blues. But like they're just using diminished as well, and a whole lot of really decadent harmonic choices that really do sort of display the depravity of what's involved. It's just really neat that we aren't just relying on major and minor triads the entire time, or even Phrygians. We were exploring some really kind of twisted tales there. And there's far more to what I'm saying. There's more nuance. Like if I was to listen to this a second time, you'd probably catch other sort of more exotic chords and everything like that. And the fact that they can go between those, because to be fair though, because of how spicy the distortion is, it makes a bit of sense that you would be able to get away with the harshness and maybe some sort of like dissonant sort of intervals, because it's part and parcel with the kind of aggression of the music they're in. It kind of makes sense to that, but it's not done in a way where they're trying to deliberately get an effect out of you. Somehow there's a weird sense of smoothness to it. So I just think a variety of different interesting chord and melody choices, great sort of alt leads. They're great to have separate ones, lead guitar for example, and the different vocal takes, and just genuinely, yeah, very, very good. No complaints at all. Not out of place with the performance. Just great to hear people playing their instruments, especially in this day and age with how music is. Studio recording, mixing and mastering, really effective. I liked how you could actually hear the drums being recorded, the guitar, bass, lead and rhythm guitars, everything vocals, easy to listen to and feel in the mix. There is a dynamic range to the production of it. There are some pulses when the vocals or the guitars come in. There's a bit of extra chunk. There's also dynamic range to the composition there as well. The track doesn't seem too choked, but when everything is going full bore, it is loud, and that's exactly what you want. They can just clearly play their instruments. They captured a really solid recorded take, and I've got nothing but love for what they were trying to accomplish here. Ultimately, I think the production style they captured was not over polished, but it's real for the genre. And I think that you'll find fans not only because of the style of music and the way you play and the way you started doing your vocals, but also because of how it sounds in post. Music surrounds you in the headphones, no word resonant frequencies, nice loud bit of pumping, bus compression, limiting is handled. No applicable constructive critique from me personally. I just think it's a really fantastic first impression to Paralysyst's music. I wish them all the best of luck with their music in future, and I'm just glad I got to listen to this. This is great to listen, because I like my metal. I like my harder metal, and I just don't get the chance to listen to a lot of it nowadays, just because with a lot of the music I review is a lot softer than this. So when I get the chance to listen to something like this, I savor it. So thank you very much for watching my review of this track from an act named Paralicyst titled Conjure the Flames. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via the various social medias and their Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever thought to create stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.